It's the first week of 2023, and to kickstart a brand new year, let's begin with some positive news. New car inventory numbers are on the rise and increasing month over month to give us some sense of normalcy, but also giving us the impression that for the first time since the pandemic and car shortages, 2023 might be the best time to buy a brand new car. Now, when you take a look at day supply numbers, which Cox Automotive and Kelley Blue Book have been on top of for a very long time, when you take a look at where we were during the first quarter of 2022, day supply was at around 35 days. But now, according to Cox Automotive, across the industry, the average is 51 days. So we've gained about 16 days worth of inventory. Before we continue on, you probably noticed that the numbers that have been used are focused around November of 2022, and you're probably wondering why 2-month-old data is being used, and it's mostly because we don't have any figures for December yet, whether it's sales figures or new car inventory. So we won't find out for another week or two on how the automotive industry is looking in the month of December heading into the first month of 2023. Now, to put these numbers into perspective and to also understand where we need to be in a typical automotive market, this is from Kelley Blue Book. An old industry rule of thumb told dealers to keep about a 60-day supply in inventory and another 15 days worth on order or in transit. So basically, 2 months worth of inventory before running out, but also when you do sell vehicles, you constantly have a flow of cars coming through. So that way they can replace the inventory that you just sold. So this is why you have vehicles on transport carriers, vehicles going into port, but then also when they do arrive, now you have cars that replenish the inventory. But since the pandemic and since the car shortages, it hasn't been that easy. And what was a well-oiled machine, no pun intended, has become very stagnated and very difficult to fill those lots and to have vehicles for you to buy. Now, to understand that 75 days is the industry norm, let's take a look at where we were in 2020 and also 2019. At the end of November 2020, supply stood at 2.7 million vehicles, or 70 days of supply, which really isn't that bad considering that factories were shut down earlier in the year. For pre-pandemic November 2019, supply hit 3.5 million vehicles, or 86 days supply. So we're still nowhere close where we need to be, or at least what I think a lot of dealers or people in the industry would be comfortable with. Now, hopping over to Cox Automotive, they have a graphic that breaks this down by segment, where for compact cars, you're at 30-day supply, which is below the industry average, but also that tells me that people are still buying smaller cars because they're affordable and economical. But then on the other side of the spectrum, you have full-size pickups, which are at 76 days, which is closer to normal. Now, of course, pickup trucks are not in demand right now because they are very expensive, but also they're not fuel efficient. So when you take a look at the economy and where we are when it comes to gas prices, it's still not favorable for bigger vehicles. And you see that for luxury cars and luxury compact SUVs, which are still above the national average. Now, of course, that's still not close to where we typically would be in a normal car market, but at least we have a lot of inventory to work with heading into 2023. As I discussed in my last video, which was the 5 predictions for the car market of 2023, some brands are doing better than others, and Kelley Blue Book is giving us a more in-depth look at what some brands are dealing with, while other manufacturers are faring quite well. As measured by days of supply, non-luxury brands with the lowest inventories, all below the national average, were Toyota, Kia, Honda, Subaru, Volkswagen, and Hyundai. Toyota and Kia had 26 days of supply. Now, as we already discussed, day supply across the industry, at least for the average, is 51 days. So this is about half that for Toyota and Kia, and I'm pretty sure that Honda isn't too far behind. That's an improvement from earlier in the year when day supply dropped to 20 and lower. And I remember specifically for Subaru, their day supply was around 8 to 10 days. So anything closer to 20 to 25 is really going to have a significant impact on the market, but also if you are looking at buying a vehicle from some of these manufacturers, you might be able to find exactly what you're looking for. What I will say though is that Volkswagen is not doing too well right now to start off 2023, as all the Volkswagen dealerships I've driven by are pretty bare compared to some other manufacturers. Luxury brands with the lowest inventories, below the national average, were Lexus, Land Rover, BMW, and Acura in that order. Lexus has been the lowest for months, but even its supply has edged higher recently to 26 days supply. What I will say is that Lexus is still very low. Drove by a Lexus dealership earlier today, and it looks no different than where we were 6 months ago. So by keeping this in mind, if you are in the market to buy a brand new car for January or February, you might want to take a look at manufacturers that were not on that list, because for the first time in about 18 to 24 months, individual dealers are now coming out with dealer incentives. So for certain manufacturers like Jeep, Chrysler, and Dodge, which do have inventory, but also even luxury brands like Audi, you might be able to save $2,000, $3,000, possibly $5,000. I'm starting to see this now, and it's becoming widespread, at least in my area, in the Boston area. So if you are looking to buy a car, you might be able to save a few $1,000s here and there, depending on the brand you're looking at. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, let's take a look at the brands that are doing quite well heading into 2023. Among all brands, Buick had the highest inventory as measured by day supply at an astounding 121 days. That doesn't surprise me at all, because who really buys a Buick in 2023? It was followed by Jeep and Infiniti, also a triple-digit day supply. Dodge, Ram, Jaguar, Volvo, and Lincoln had 90 to 100 day supply. Now there's a lot of variables at play here. Some manufacturers are doing better when it comes to the chip shortages, but also let's remember one thing as well, that for brands like Lincoln and Jaguar, they're not the most in-demand vehicles. They're also relatively expensive. And when you take a look at their competitors such as BMW, Audi, and Mercedes-Benz, they're a bit more appealing, and also people really want those vehicles. So that would explain why their inventories are a little different than what we see from other manufacturers. However, Dodge and Ram do surprise me, especially since this is the final years for the Charger and Challenger. And also, Ram pickup trucks are pretty cool vehicles, especially since you have the TRX, but also I love the 1500, whether it's the classic or the current generation. I think those vehicles definitely outshine some of their competitors when it comes to interior technology, but also the exterior design. But there's a lot of variables at play, and I'm not going to get into any of those in this video. But what if you're wondering about specific vehicles? Because we're getting more of a general overview of what the inventory situations are like, but what about vehicles that you actually want to buy? Well, Kelley Blue Book has you covered there, because they took things one step further, giving us exactly what we want to see. Of the 30 highest selling models in the 30 days that ended November, 11 with the lowest inventories were Asian brands, which is no surprise to me at all. Specifically, Kia, Toyota, Honda, and Subaru. At the bottom were the Kia Sportage, Toyota Corolla, Honda CR-V, and Toyota 4Runner, all with day supply below 22. And I can verify this because 3 of the 4 vehicles I can't find on inventory anywhere, and as a car reviewer, I want to get my hands on some of these vehicles, like the Kia Sportage, like the Toyota Corolla. Heck, I can't even find a Camry or Toyota RAV4, so it's still pretty dire for higher volume selling vehicles. Of the 30 top selling models, full-size domestic pickup trucks and SUVs had the most inventory, with the Ram 1500 having the most at an outsized 118-day supply, followed by the Ford Escape with a 105-day supply. The Chevrolet Silverado, Ford Explorer, and Ford F-150 fell in behind Ram 1500 and Ford Escape at 90-day supply or more. Now, having recently reviewed a Ford Explorer, I can tell you this right now, you're going to be able to find a Ford Explorer no matter what trim it is, which is great to see, especially if you are in the need for a 3-row SUV. Now, one thing I do want you to keep in mind here, though, is that when it comes to the Ford Escape, the new model year should be arriving sometime in the first half of 2023. So if you are looking to save a bit, you might find a Ford dealership eager to get rid of older inventory. So maybe it might be the perfect time to buy a 2022 Ford Escape and save a few $1,000s, whereas if you're looking at buying a Toyota RAV4, Honda CR-V, or maybe even a Kia Sportage, you might be paying over sticker to buy one of those vehicles, whereas the Ford Escape might be a bit more attainable. So ultimately, when you take a look at these day supply numbers for each specific manufacturer, but also even specific vehicles as well, it tells us that consumers are still looking at buying affordable and economical vehicles like the Toyota Corolla and Toyota RAV4 and Honda CR-V. But also, Japanese brands are having a hard time keeping up with the chip shortages and the demand, whereas domestic brands like Ford, Jeep, Chrysler, and Dodge, and GM are doing quite well, keeping up with the demand, but also having too much inventory where you might be able to find a great deal. Also, when you take a look at the graphic from Cox Automotive, you might be able to get a good deal for luxury vehicles as well, as day supply is above the national or industry average. So right now things are looking up. They might not be the best or most ideal right now, as we still are about 25 days off where we need to be, at least in a typical automotive market. But to start off 2023, we're doing a lot better than where we were last year at this time. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. And I will see you guys next time.